The date is January 9th, 2013, and this is Daily D&D. Hey guys, welcome to your daily dose of D&D. My name is Mamnet1Count, and today we are talking about sorcerers, or sorcerers, as I have to keep remembering on it to pronounce it so that I can spell it correctly with an ER instead of an OR, because I'm really horrible at that. The sorcerer is an arcane class that does stuff a little bit differently than the wizard does. Yesterday I talked a little bit about the Vancian magic system, and the sorcerer is set apart from it. Sorcerers in the D&D mythology have their magic come naturally to them. They can just naturally pick up spells that flow from in them, their inner essence. They kind of use a mana system. If you've ever played a video game where they use mana, that's kind of more like what sorcerers are, whereas wizards require you to do this memorization thing. I talked about that yesterday. I'm done talking about it. So sorcerers have their power come from within them. And in D&D 4th edition, there are 4.5 types of sorcerers that you can play, where their power source comes from. We'll start with the little half bit, and that's the Elementalist Sorcerer, which we'll talk about another time. That one comes from the Heroes of Elemental Chaos book, and they are friggin' sweet. They're the Essentials take on sorcerers, and I like them. We will definitely talk about them sometime. However, going back to the original sorcerer, there are 4 different types, and all sorcerers are strikers. They're designed to deal damage, and they've got a lot of little tiny class features that allow them to add secondary stats directly into damage, and they get to do a lot of fun stuff like that. They also get a lot of resistance to the specific elements, depending on exactly where their source of magic comes from. The first sorcerer spell source that we're going to talk about is Dragon Soul magic. And what this means is that, for whatever reason, your sorcerer has this heart and soul of a dragon inside of them. This is, you can kind of think of a Skyrim type thing, where your sorcerer's spells has the dragon soul inside of him, and he can Berserk! If that wasn't copyrighted. And so, yeah, he gets to totally use a bunch of really cool magic things. And he gets resistance to fire, and he gets a lot of cool stuff that add, into his spells. One of the things that sorcerers are really good at are having a lot of spells that deal with their magic source. You'll have, a bunch of the other 4th edition classes have those secondary choices that you get for that class that don't really play a part in it. But for sorcerers, there's 1 or 2 options that you can take pretty much every time you get a new power that have something to do with their spell source. So yeah, Dragon Soul magic gives them some pretty cool stuff in regards to blasts and bursts. The next type that I want to talk about is Chaos magic. Now, I've not looked at Chaos magic seriously. It does this weird thing where if you roll an odd number on your attack die or an even number, the spell can do 2 different things. And that's just a bit too chaotic for me. As I mentioned before, I'm a little bit of a power gamer, and so knowing exactly what my spell is going to do is a huge important thing for me. And so the Chaos magic, it's not really my forte. But it does let you get a huge choice of things that you get to resist and the damage that you get to do. And so it's a very, very interesting thing to look into. The third type is called Cosmic, and that has to do with the sun and the moon and the stars. And what's interesting about it is your spell source kind of changes every time you have an extended rest or when you use a daily power. You'll go from being in the aspect of the sun to the aspect of the moon to the aspect of the stars, and you have different effects at each of those times. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. Once again, I've stayed away from it because I like things to stay the same. It just makes things really simple. The 4th type of sorcerer is one that I have built and played around a little bit with, and that's a Storm Sorcerer. You've got the power and the fury of a thunderstorm inside of you, and so your thunder spells and your lightning spells get to do a lot of cool additional effects. And yeah, you get to resist thunder and lightning, and there's a lot of stuff you can do. At higher levels, you can even fly when you have that. And just your character being able to fly is always pretty cool. Feat-wise, there are some pretty awesome stuff that they can get. First of all, because of their implements that they get staves and knives. You can take a feat as a sorcerer that allows you to make, when you're wielding a knife, you can make. You can use one of your ranged spells as a melee spell against someone. So effectively, you stab them in the face and then burning hands straight into their face. And so that's pretty cool. Being able to, it's called a Sorcerer's Blade Channeling, and it allows you to, instead of cast a spell, stab a spell. And that's really useful if your DM is very, very picky on attacking if you've used a ranged spell. I've had some DMs who don't seem to know the rule exists. I've got other DMs who are, jump on that as soon as it happens. And so depending on where that is, depends on how important that feat is. It is pretty useful though, and when you tell someone that you stab a spell in the face, that's pretty awesome. There's a lot of really cool things that sorcerers get. They're an arcane class, and so they have a lot of things that have to do with magic. One of the coolest things, and a reason to multi-class into sorcerer, is a feat called Sorcerer's Vision, or Arcane Vision. I think it's Sorcerer's Vision, and it lets you make an Arcana check instead of a Perception check. And I built for my sister in her first campaign. She came into an Epic Tier campaign, so she was like way confused as to what was going on. But I made a Sherlock Holmes type character for her that could see through magic, and that was one of the things. And so, instead of having to roll a perception check, she would just use like her default Arcana, which was like a 43. So she could see everything, and there wasn't much I could do about it. So that's a fun feat. There's a lot of fun utility powers that sorcerers get. Sorcerer Sirocco is probably one of my favorite, and it just says, hey, people around me, let's fly. And they get to fly. And there's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of very, very useful sorcererish things that they get to do. So yeah, I like sorcerers. I especially like the Elementalist, which I will probably talk about sometime next week. Don't know when. And I did cover all 4. Yes, I did. I think that's it for Sorcerers today. If you liked the video, hit the like button down below. If you know anyone who needs to see this video, there's a share button creeping around down there somewhere, and you can click on that and pass it to them however you would prefer. There's also down there a subscribe button, and you can click on that, and I will come to your YouTube subscription box with your daily dose of D&D as the cycle changes from the sun, the moon, and the stars. My name is MadMat1Cow. This has been your daily dose of D&D. You guys stay online, and I'll see you next time.